Welcome to the Prospective Doctor Podcast, brought to you by Med School Coach. Pre-med and medical students alike are encouraged to tune in each week for tips on how to become a strong med school candidate, gain acceptance into the school of your dreams, and succeed on your journey toward residency and becoming a doctor.
Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to have this special guest on here with me today, Dr. Andrew Tisser. I'll just start by letting him say hello and tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. Thanks so much for having me. This is fun and exciting.
Yes.
Love coming on here to talk to you. So like you said, my name's Andrew Tisser. I'm an emergency physician by day and by night, I guess. And I have my own podcast called Talk2MeDoc with the number 2. It focuses on issues relating to the early career physician. I also am the president and owner of Talk2MeDoc LLC, which is a company that helps early career docs and doctors that haven't figured it out yet with career strategy, career transition, and designing a life that you really love as a doctor. So that's me in a nutshell. I got a dog named Lily, and my wife is also a physician, and she's the smart one in the relationship. So she's an academic rheumatologist, and she's pretty awesome as well. So that's me.
That's awesome. So I want to hear a little bit more about Talk to Me Doc, both the LLC and the podcast. Can you tell us what kind of drove you into starting that?
Sure. So the podcast has evolved over time, as they kind of all do. First off, when I was in Chicago after I finished residency, following my wife because she did her fellowship out that way. And I was at a small hospital, and it was time to leave because we were moving to Western New York. And one of the security guards got me a bottle of champagne. And I was like, "Oh, why'd you do that?" And he's like, "Because you talk to me like I'm a person, doc." And, I was like, "Oh, God, that's horrible. Like, do other people not?" And he said, you'd really be surprised. So when we got back to Buffalo and things settled up, I wanted to start a show to kind of explore some of the other healthcare professionals' stories and learn about communication and where it fails. So that's where it initially started. And we had some really amazing guests and conversations in that regard. But slowly over time, I realized that my passion really was with the early career physician. And I just arbitrarily called that less than 7 years out of training because 10 seemed too long and 5 seemed too short. But, and that kind of morphed into my consulting company, Talk2MeDoc, as well.
That's awesome. Like it's really exciting that people are focusing on communication because like what you said with that experience, you're wondering like, are other docs not doing this? And there are a lot of things that I at least find value in mentorship and mentoring others where we can relay and teach people the life lessons that we've learned so they can do better and avoid other things and pitfalls that happen and have opportunities for growth. So I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I agree completely. And that's why the theme of Talk to Me Doc has always been keep talking. And it remains so. We're still having guests on there from outside of healthcare as well, teaching lessons to our early career docs because we're just talking to everybody and learning their perspectives and learning lessons from them. So yeah, I agree.
Great. And what drove you to pursue emergency medicine?
I didn't like anything as much. So before medical school, I was actually in EMS. So I was a firefighter and an EMT in college, and then in the first couple of years of medical school as well as a volunteer. So initially, it was always, I was going to do emergency medicine. So I tried to like everything else. So that was why I really tried to go into everything with an open mind, and I just didn't like it as much. So I ended up coming back to my original love, which was the ER. And for all of its faults, it's still the field of medicine that I like the most. So it is. I just didn't like anything as much. That is the real answer.
That seems to be true for a lot of people. And it's good that you pointed out that you kept an open mind in medical school because there are things that people come into and they're thinking like, oh, I'm going to be a neurosurgeon or something like that. And then when they get in there, they're like, but I don't like doing surgery. So it's good to keep that open mind, but you love what you love and you have to do, for the most part, a lot of people practice medicine for a lifetime until it's time to retire. So it's great to have something that makes you excited to go to work every day. So it's good that you found that in emergency medicine.
Yeah, sure. I had two pieces of advice in this regard. So I think a lot of students ask how to choose a specialty.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the best way to go about it is to make a list of all of them and cross things out instead of like, oh, I like this, and then I like this, and then I like this, I think. And the really important part of the exercise is, what don't you like about that field? So I really didn't like OB. I really didn't like it. And so what it came to was, I didn't like the OR more than I didn't like the field. So I was able to eliminate surgical specialties. I liked procedures, obviously, but I didn't like being in the OR. And it's also important to realize, did you just have a bad experience or a bad attending or a bad resident versus do you not like the field? Because one sour apple can surely ruin a field for somebody. And the other part of it is, you will have different things that you like, but you might not like them as much. I really liked hematology, which you don't hear from ER doctors ever, but I really liked hematology, but I hated rounding. I couldn't do it. There was no possible way I could do medicine residency. So that eliminated that field as well. So those are my two quick little pieces of advice for the med students.
At Med School Coach, we know that getting into medical school is hard. In fact, 60% of pre-meds who apply to medical school don't even get accepted. And if you want to get accepted into a top medical school, it's even harder. It's a complicated process, and even students with great grades and MCAT scores get left out. That's why more students than ever are turning to Med School Coach for admissions advising. Our advisors are all physicians and former admissions committee members, so they know exactly what medical schools are looking for. One-on-one admissions advising from Med School Coach makes all the difference. Our expert team will help you develop a game plan, prepare your application, edit your essays, and coach you for interviews. Every pre-med has a story, and we'll help you tell it so you can stand out from the crowd. Visit us online at medschoolcoach.com and use offer code PODCAST10 to save 10%, up to $400 on a Med School Coach admissions advising package. You can achieve your medical school dreams, and Med School Coach can help.
Those are good points, because like you said, like, one bad apple can spoil or put a sour taste in your mouth about certain things. So you may think like, oh my God, I hate pediatrics. And then say you decide to go into a family medicine field. You're like, oh, I really love kids. It was just the pediatricians I was with on my rotation or something that happened. So it's really good to kind of not only cross up like, I don't like this, but why don't I like, and do that self-reflection and introspection. You focus on giving advice to new docs about finding a life that aligns with their core values and goals. How would you suggest that a student in their early career work towards that when there are so many components of their lives that are predetermined by like coursework or GME requirements? Like, how can they find their passion?
I mean, I think this is a great question. It evolves over time, of course. What you like and what you're passionate about will evolve. I think it's never too early to get in touch with what your core values are, because those really don't change. And, there's all kinds of exercises you could do online and things of that nature, but it really comes down to who you are as a person and what you believe in. And that shouldn't change. And in regards to, the structure that you have, this is true, but if you are passionate about something, you should pursue it. I feel that it's never too early to go for what you want. The underlying message is, if you want something, you should attack it wholeheartedly. Just like when you're in college and you said you wanted to go to medical school, you didn't just like wait around until someone was like, "Here's a medical school, acceptance." Like, that doesn't happen. You wanted to go to medical school, so you looked up everything about it. You learned the best way to get in. You studied hard. You prepared for exams. You sought out mentors, etc. But you went into it fully. And so that's part of it for everything. And it's never too early to figure out who you are and what you want out of life when you're done, because the structure eventually goes away. And that causes a lot of people some mental distress. I always thought like, oh my God, when I'm out of residency, I'm going to be so happy because I won't have to go to conference and I won't have to do this and that. But there comes a point with a lot of new attendings that are like, well, now what? I got to do this for 40 years. And have sometimes an existential crisis in that regard. So I think it's never too early to figure out your values, what you stand for, and what you want out of this one life that we have.
That's a great point. And I think that you hit a lot of things, like develop a plan and figure out how to work it and see how it aligns with your core values, because hopefully at this point you've already developed those and you're just figuring out how to nurture it and then figuring out what you want to do in the future, because a lot of things will go away. You won't have to go to lecture for the rest of your life, or
unless you want to.
unless you want to. You can always stay an academic and you can give the lectures or join some for free. So there are always options, and figuring out like what you miss about certain things or what you like, and then moving forward in that way in order to figure out what exactly it is that you want and not necessarily what is told to you. Mm-hmm. Which brings me to another question, because there's a lot of discussion in the medical realm about doctors kind of diversifying their income or maximizing their MD or monetizing it even. And sometimes that drives people to look into non-clinical or alternative careers. And depending on who you talk about in the medical field, that may be encouraged or discouraged. What thoughts do you have on that?
Whatever your thoughts are, you're right. Here's a little secret, okay? It's going to make some of your audience feel uncomfortable, but I'm going to say it anyway. I love talking about money. I think we all need to talk about money because it is very important. And when you're done with this crazy ride of medical training, you will be, even the pediatricians out there, you will be in the top 5% of earners in the United States. So I think, A, it is important to educate yourself about money. And luckily, we have a lot of great resources out there now. And B, when you look at, quote, monetizing your degree, that makes it sound kind of dirty, right? Like, like, oh, you're going to be a sellout influencer or something, whatever. So I don't look at it that way. I think if you are able to find a career that you love in medicine, that's great. If medicine is not for you and you want to take a non-clinical path, such as the insurance industry, the pharmaceutical industry, all these chart review type companies, there's millions of things you can do. Creative writing, medical writing, advertising. There's so much you can do with your degree. There's no shame in that at all. And I think there's a little concept I like to talk about too called the sunk cost fallacy. So it's an economic term. Mm-hmm. And what it means is that people get really concerned over what they've put in. So they keep doing what they're doing. So from an investment standpoint, they've already lost so much money in the stock market. They keep putting money into that investment, hoping to recoup what they've lost, which is stupid, right? Just like, so people say, well, I've put all this loan money and time into becoming a doctor. I just have to be a doctor because I've spent all this time, right? So that is trash, right? That is silly. You have to do what makes you fulfilled, what aligns with your values in life, and what makes you and your family happy. Because at the end of the day, one of my core values is family. And I think a lot of us go into this to help people, and we get twisted and turned by training, by the nonsense out there to think of, and that's what happens with burnout, and we lose sight of that. So I love non-clinical careers, and I love diversifying your income. I think it's never too soon to diversify income streams. As this awful pandemic has taught us, once thought to be complete job security may not be there. So I think educate yourself about money, make your money work for you, however you choose to do that. And if you decide to pursue a non-clinical passion, then awesome. I got utmost respect for you.
That's nothing else I can add to that.
It was a bit rambly, but we got there.
But you hit all the key points. Like we need to be happy with what we're doing and figure out what your values are. So if you're not happy performing the job that you're doing, look into other avenues. You are trained as a physician. So if you're working in a non-clinical job and they're hiring you for it, you have skill sets that they're looking for. And you may not necessarily be seeing patients directly, or you may be helping a system see them in a different way, but it's still contributing to utilizing the skills that you use. So it's not a waste of money. And the biggest thing that I think you mentioned, and we might talk about this a little more, you mentioned that you love talking about money, and it's kind of somewhat of a taboo topic in certain places. And I've heard tons of doctors who stay in their jobs because they're like, I owe a lot of money, and medical school is expensive for everyone. Mm-hmm. And different people come in with different financial situations. But how would you suggest that people set themselves up financially and kind of dive more into learning about like not only the financial and business side of medicine, but just personal finance?
Sure. Well, I think compared to long ago, there's so many other great resources out there. So White Coat Investor's been around for a long time. You know, he got me started. And now check out my episode with Jim Daly of the White Coat Investor.
Yes.
But that was a good one. But, you know, there's so much out there. And you don't have to be a financial wizard here, right? We're just talking about not making mistakes. And I've made plenty of them, even being you know, relatively well-versed in financial matters. I've made tons of mistakes, but the important thing is to not make really bad mistakes. You know, everyone talks about loans, and trust me, I got lots of them. If people don't have loans, I'm willing to give them some if they want them, you know.
They can take mine too.
That's it, you know, free. We'll give it to you. But the important thing is to not let the loans run your life either. They could be managed, and they could be managed in a way that doesn't cause you like utmost anxiety either. So I'd start just by, you know, checking out White Coat Investor. Great. There's some other really good ones out there. I know Brent Lacey in the Scope of Practice does some good stuff, and Jimmy Turner of the Physician Philosopher, I believe is his site. Also really good, easy to digest little chunks, just learning about how not to mess up too bad. And the other thing is there's a lot in the financial world in regards to physicians against debt and avoiding debt at all costs. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think you also have to live, but I think just some basic financial literacy is step one to making money less scary. Because a lot of times, you know, not to generalize, but a lot of doctors are pretty good at school. And they're pretty good at success, and they're pretty good at getting good grades, and they're pretty good at all that. And when they see something they're not too good at, it's pretty scary. And so they put their head in the sand and be like, I don't want to talk about it. I know a guy who graduated a year before me who still, quote, doesn't know what to do with his student loans. Like, you don't want to be in that position. You need a plan, because when you have a plan, it's a lot less scary.
At Med School Coach, we know that studying for the MCAT exam can be challenging, especially for busy students on the go. That's why our team created MCAT Prep, the only all-encompassing study app built specifically for the MCAT. MCAT Prep by Med School Coach provides student access to extremely high-quality content and a personalized curriculum for free. The app has more than 250 videos, 1,000 flashcards, and 1,000 unique MCAT questions. Plus, MCAT Prep by Med School Coach allows students to create a personalized study schedule and track progress over time. You need every competitive advantage you can get to get into medical school, and now you can put the experts from Med School Coach into your pocket. It's the closest pre-med students can come to a personal tutor without spending a penny. Download MCAT Prep by Med School Coach for free at medschoolcoach.com/MCAT. Or download it directly from the Apple Store or Google Play Store. You can achieve your medical school dreams, and MCAT Prep by Med School Coach can help.
Yes, absolutely. I feel everything you're saying. Like it's something we need to learn about in life, because money is important, but you also have to live. And you've made this investment in yourself, whether or not you paid right out for your education or you had to take loans. And a lot of people have large loan burdens. I do myself, but your life shouldn't be run by that. And you should develop a plan in order to figure out what you need to do. And I would suggest that everyone listen to that episode on Talk to Me Doc and look into the White Coat Investor and things like that. My final question for you, since you've given us so many pearls of wisdom, what is the best piece of advice that you would give to a pre-med student or a med student as they start their journey?
Well, I saw this question and I've been thinking about it, and I just can't limit myself to one. So you'll have to bear with me.
Give us everything you have.
Okay. Well, you know,
might take us 2 hours.
Can't give you all the secret sauce, all right? But so number one is a general life rule is a good quote. I don't know where it came from, but there's no failure in life, just feedback, right? So again, very type A people as far as doctors go. And we hate screwing up. But really, everything teaches you a lesson. Maybe you didn't get into your number one med school. I didn't get into my number one med school. I didn't even get into my number 5. But at the end of the day, that's where I met my wife. So, these things all end up for the better. So no failure, but feedback. Just keep learning the entire way through. Number 2 is if you see something that rubs you the wrong way, or you experience something that doesn't jive well with who you are, you need to speak up, especially in this current times. I have a crusade against the old way of just treating residents and students like garbage. It's enough. It's not cute. Really, it's not. So we got to stop allowing that, especially with the disparities among our students and residents of color, and all the terrible biases that we're seeing that is in the House of Medicine, right? So that needs to go, especially in academia, where it's unfortunately very prevalent. So you see something you don't like, you need to do something about it. And you're definitely not the only one experiencing it. And number 3 is to go for it. And that applies to everything throughout your career. Nobody's going to come down from heaven and hand you the perfect mentor or the perfect job or the perfect residency spot. Anything you want, you need to figure out a plan on how you're going to achieve it and attack it with everything, right? Go seek out people for mentorship. Go if you want one of these non-clinical jobs, and maybe you got to polish up your resume and your LinkedIn and submit some applications. No one's going to hand these things to you, and it goes all the way through. If you want that research and you email somebody who's a big shot at your school and they say no, has anything changed in your life? No, you still don't have the research. But if they said yes, look at you. You got a great opportunity. So go for it. That's it. So to recap, my 3 things are: if you see something, say something, right? Always speak up for things that you feel are not correct as you progress through your training. Go for it, no matter where you are in your training, and there's no failure, just feedback. So those are my 3. That's the best I could do.
Oh, I think those were the best, honestly. Life takes you in different places, so feedback is important. Shoot your shot, miss 100% of shots you don't take, and you have to stand with your core values and what's right. So
for the Hamilton fans out there, rise up,
Absolutely. I love Hamilton. So if you guys haven't watched it, watch it on Disney Plus. Amazing.
So good.
Yes. So I am so thankful that you came and you graced us with your presence and knowledge. That's all we have for today. So if you want to just say goodbye to everyone.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much again for having me and allowing me to speak to your entire audience. And again, guys and gals, just shoot your shot.
Love it. This is Erkeda again, and I'll see you back next week. Bye.
Each episode of the Prospective Doctor podcast is brought to you by Med School Coach. To access articles, videos, webinars, and free tools to help you succeed on your journey toward med school and beyond, visit our website, prospectivedoctor.com. We hope you tune in again next time.